Bitcoin is back to $119,000 since bouncing from the lows. Now the question on everyone's mind is it time for altcoin season? We saw a recent drop in Bitcoin dominance, and so all of your favorite influencers have been yelling for altcoin season. In today's video, we'll be talking about whether or not this is the case, is it time for alts to really shine, or if we're seeing something else in the market. I'll also be going over my most recent Bitcoin trade, and of course, touching on Ethereum. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. And let's kick us off as per usual with the Bitcoin price action. Now, just to recap, if you haven't been watching the channel, we got a significant bounce from the 112K low, which was the bottom of this range. And as I've been saying, I was bullish here. Now, we also got a bounce from this level because it coincided perfectly with the previous all-time high. Now, a lot of you have been following this journey, and some of you even went ahead and entered a Bitcoin long trade, which, as you can see, we currently made just under $20,000 in profit, and we have around $50,000 in unrealized profits. Now, what is next? Is altcoin season here? Because we got a nice move from the lows. The first thing I want you to pay attention to is sweeping the liquidity. In this downtrend, we simply failed to make higher highs. Every single time that we got to the top of the range, Bitcoin got rejected. And as we continue to consolidate here, that is when we first initially saw a drop in Bitcoin dominance, when we got the confirmation right in this range. Now, hovering around the point of control was ultimately extremely positive. And if you don't know, the point of control is where there's the highest volume in this range. Now, keep your eyes on that because it's a very critical level. We kept going lower, getting rejected. Then we had a massive drop to the bottom of the range, got a nice pump. Of course, we took advantage of that with our most recent Bitcoin trade. You can see now that we finally got that first level of liquidity for Bitcoin. And what I mean by this is we finally established a higher level, and it wasn't just a wick to the top of this range. So if I zoom in here, the liquidity zone was right around $119,000. And as I'm recording this video, Bitcoin is sitting right at that level, and it doesn't seem like we SFP'd right there. And so in my opinion, if we get the weekly close right around these levels, there is no reason why Bitcoin can't find its way back above $120,000. The reason this is important is because it will affect the altcoin market. Make sure you watch the entire video to know how. But right now, this is the key level I'm looking at. Breaking above here, getting the confirmation. The next three levels would be number 2 over here. You can see right at the value area high, which is this yellow line coinciding with the liquidity around 119.7K. And then we also have, of course, 120K, 121K, and the all-time high, $123,000 for Bitcoin. So, are we going to make a brand new all-time high? Right now, we just need to see what kind of reaction we get at these levels. And as we just discussed, from the lows, this was an excellent risk to reward opportunity to go massively long, holding support at the previous all-time high. So, Bitcoin dominance, what do you see here? On the weekly time frame, we got a massive red candle. We actually dropped to below 60% for Bitcoin dominance. A lot of people are starting to call for altcoin season. And trust me, I've been reading my comment section. This guy over here says altcoin season is here and you're somewhere else. But I still do not think that this is the altcoin season that we're looking for. The main reason is because Ethereum is taking over from the altcoin market. Yes, Bitcoin dominance is dropping a little bit. But if we take a look at the rest of the altcoin market against Ethereum, which we've been tracking on the channel very, very closely, what do you notice? A massive drop. And I mean massive. Take a look at this. This is the collective altcoin market against Ethereum, down almost 48% in a matter of weeks. The reason I point this out is because this is not altcoin season. This is Ethereum season. And that's why I've been saying on the channel that most of my spot portfolio is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum is giving me most of the upside of this altcoin market, really outperforming basically everything else. And right now, Ethereum just broke through this $4,000 level. It's looking like an extremely bullish weekly candle. At this point, all-time highs are indeed imminent. Now, I'm not saying that we will not be having any kind of pullbacks for ETH, but right now, it is completely dominating the altcoin market, which is exactly why I continue to have my money in Ethereum. This is not altcoin season. Altcoin season is met when we have a massive drop in Bitcoin dominance. Now, some of you might be saying, well, you're going to wait for it to be too late. But right now, if my exposure is in Ethereum, I'm getting most of the gains with less of the risk. So let's wait and see what happens with Bitcoin dominance. Personally, I think that Bitcoin's next big move will shake out the altcoin market. And what I mean by this is whether or not we move up or down, and just to be clear, my base case is up, I think that Bitcoin will continue to take over and we will see Bitcoin dominance start to trickle on up. Remember, this is a very critical support level and we wicked below it, but now we're currently holding 60% Bitcoin dominance as support on the weekly time frame. Let's see what happens here, but there is still no rush in my opinion. That is at least if you're holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, as I've been talking about on the channel at length. Now, I know a lot of you are knees deep in altcoins and I can sympathize with that, but I've been sharing with you how I've been navigating in this market. And right now, the risk to reward just doesn't make any sense. If you want exposure to the altcoin market, continue to hold Ethereum as it continues to outperform Bitcoin. There will be drops in the market. Remember, it's not up only. And when Bitcoin ends up dropping at some point before its next leg higher, that is when altcoins will likely get shaken out. We also do know that when Bitcoin rips higher, that is also when Bitcoin dominance continues to increase. So right now, we're at that first level. We confirmed above $119,000. Let's see how the weekly candle looks, but right now this is looking phenomenal for Bitcoin. If we can move on higher, we do know that there's a ton more liquidity to the upside, which is why I'm remaining in my Bitcoin long trade, which is sitting in some very, very solid profits. Remember, if you want to trade with me and try to make these kinds of profits in the market, you do have all of the links in the description down below. First of all, we have Bluffin, which has a fantastic promotion, which if you deposit these amounts of capital, 25K, you get VIP 1, 50K, you get VIP 2. Plus, you get 10% cash back up to $3,000. And we also have weeks, of course, where it's the last day for the $1,000 Ethereum position airdrop. All you need to do is sign up with the link in my description down below under weeks. And once you register, you download the Weeks app, log into your account, and within 72 hours, you get a free $1,000 Ethereum airdrop position. That's whether or not you want to go long or short Ethereum, you get that free $1,000 to trade with. And of course, the last exchange that I have here is Phoenix, and you can see that they have a pretty solid promotion too. Deposit and trade to earn Solana and $1,000 in cashback. You have that as the last link in the description down below. Now back to the Bitcoin chart quickly. Right now, I want to see us confirm above these levels, and I do think that there is still some upside. 120K is inevitable. I mean, right now at this point, as I'm recording, we're at $119,000, and I know it probably doesn't help you, but we've been talking about 120K since Bitcoin was all the way down here. So I just thought I'd reiterate that because if you've been following the channel, you have likely been making a lot of money. Of course, nothing is financial advice, but that's my goal. I want to help you navigate the crypto market with ease and make profits along the way. Now, Ethereum against Bitcoin. Honestly, this just continues to rip higher, and this is also contributing to the recent drop in Bitcoin dominance. But I am more than happy to keep my ETH position, especially as ETH Bitcoin continues to pump here. What I also want you to pay attention to is the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map. Right now, on the 30-day time frame, you can see that there is still way more shorts in the market, which is ultimately very positive for those of you that have been going long on Bitcoin. And taking a look at this liquidity map, you can also see that there is still a bunch of liquidity right around $120,000. I do think that this will be hit, but if you're in a Bitcoin long, this is likely a very good position to take some profits at because we can always get a wick there and ultimately end up coming back down into the range. Now, right now, I like the way things are looking, but within this range, whenever Bitcoin actually cools off, that is when Bitcoin dominance drops and we see altcoins getting a little bit of outperformance. For example, right around these levels, when Bitcoin confirmed back above the point of control and was just chopping around before making this move, that is when we saw a massive move in Ethereum and of course the rest of the altcoin market. However, as soon as we broke out of this range, you can see that Bitcoin dominance on the daily time frame started to get eaten up and started moving higher. So as you can see, if I click daily, this is exactly what we're getting. We drop below and now on the day, we're popping right back above. Now, I don't want you to not have any exposure to the altcoin market, which is why I've been talking about Ethereum at length. ETH continues to outperform Bitcoin. So why would you dive into a million different altcoins? What is next for this week? I think that Bitcoin will easily trickle on higher. We will likely hit $120,000. Then we'll have to see the reaction at that level. Are we going to make a new all-time high, or is this time for us to now come back down within the range? At this point, this is looking extremely strong. So we'll have to see how things develop. Obviously, I will keep you updated on my trades. But in terms of the important events that we have coming up this week, first of all, we have the OPEC monthly report on Tuesday, the July CPI inflation data on Tuesday as well, the July PPI inflation data on Thursday, the July retail sales data on Friday, the MI consumer sentiment data on Friday, and we also have a total of 5 Fed speaker events. It's again another big week for inflation data. We'll have to see what happens. Typically, if the stock market gets a correction, of course, Bitcoin will be dropping and the rest of the crypto market as well. However, if stocks continue to trickle on higher and we soar to new all-time highs, it's at that point where we can probably expect Bitcoin to go ahead and at least grab the liquidity all the way up to the previous all-time high, which is right around $123,000. And remember, if you want to know my exact trade entries, when I'm entering and when I'm exiting my positions, you have the first link in my description down below. DM me the word premium on Telegram, and I would be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. Of course, you need to sign up with one of my affiliate exchange links, but that's literally the only requirement, and you can trade as you normally would, but you get access to my live trades. And that sums up today's video. Honestly, Bitcoin is looking better than ever, breaking above the point of control of this range, breaking above the top of this range since getting the bounce from the previous all-time high that we've been discussing on the channel at length. Influencers are yelling about altcoin season, but I'm telling you right now, when Bitcoin makes its next big move, whether that's to the upside, which I'm currently favoring, or to the downside, Bitcoin dominance will likely continue to increase. We are currently holding the 60% level as support, and I am not diving into altcoins quite yet. Very happy with my Ethereum position because, in fact, Ethereum is outperforming the rest of the altcoin market. If you can take on less risk and get better returns, why wouldn't you? That is ETH for you at this point in the market cycle. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.